Hello everybody, welcome to January's Nature Diary in 2022. I'm going to just share my screen to show you a little bit about the species we're painting today, which is the common starling. Just find, yep, there we go. So as you can see, they're quite, at first glance, you don't really notice the colouring that they have, because I think at first they appear maybe black or grey, but then in certain light, you start to see how many colours they have. So hopefully it's going to be quite fun to, well, I had fun painting it, so I think you will as well. So the common starling, it's known as Stournelle in Maltese, so maybe some of you know that name. They start to arrive in with the migration of the rest of other birds in late September and to October, and they stay with us until early spring. So they stay here for the winter, basically. And some may stay to breed in the summer, but it's not so common for them to have babies here. So they're a common migrant, basically, into Malta. They like open areas a lot. Let me just show you another picture. And if everybody
dentro, come and see it.
Everybody could mute themselves because I can't see the controls. Okay, I think that's okay. So yeah, here's another picture with great colors in it as well. So you can, like I was saying before, you can hear them chattering away in trees quite a lot, and they're a very sociable bird, and they actually communicate with each other about where the best places to get food are. So at night, when they all gather together, they start to share information with each other. And the kind of food that they eat is includes insects, fruits, seeds, and grain. They defend themselves from birds of prey like falcons and harriers by forming a really large flock. And they're all tightly packed together and they scare off their enemy in that way. So I'll share a short video with you to show you how that happens. So I love this photo as well. They've got really pretty patterns on their wings. Oh, it seems a bit annoying sometimes when you can't. And this is a really good website. It's the RSPB, an English organization, a website. And there's some nice drawings of starlings over there. And they also have some good information about them. So if you're ever doing a school project, and BirdLife Malta have a good website too that has some good information about birds on there. So these are all photos of birds that were taken in Malta. And this, I'll just show you really quickly because it's really cool. That's a murmuration. That is all starlings all flying together. Isn't that amazing? So they do that to defend themselves. That's a lot of starlings. Okay, so let's get started with drawing and painting. I'm actually going to use, or I did use the first two pictures that I showed you. So what I'm going to do is post these in the chat, just in case you do want to use the photos, you don't have to. So I used the first one to draw from, and the second one to use as for the colors to paint from, basically. So I posted the links to those in the chat. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to make so remove my spotlight, and where's my Starling gone? So this is the video. This is one I painted as a practice. So I'm going to put that there. And so if you can't see what I'm drawing, hopefully you can. Just let me know and I'll try and adjust the settings of the video. So basically what I like to suggest is drawing shapes, because it makes it feel easier when you draw in that way. So you kind of have, I mean, I feel like it looks like half an avocado, the shape of this bird at the moment. But it's kind of at an angle. But basically you can draw one sort of oval. It's not quite a circle, but it's like a squashed egg at the top. And you need to decide also that you have enough space on your paper to get everything in. So if you say the beak is going to start there, the tail is going to finish there. And this depends on how seriously you're going to take drawing, to be honest, because if it just comes instinctively to you, then and a lot of the time that's what happens to me. So you can, so I'll show you, measure if you want to get the measurements right. Oops. So you measure how big the head is. So I'm using my finger on the pencil, and you say it's that big, and then it fits 1, 2, 3, 4 times into the body. So without the tail. So then you measure here to get it right. It's about that much, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, which is about here. So I think I'm going to make the head a bit smaller. Is everyone okay so far? Okay. Not that we've done that much. So I'm just going to check it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's better. And then I'm going to draw another oval shape. There. And you can, obviously, it's in pencil, so you can adjust this, so you don't have to worry too much. And then the tail, we just and then there's like a kind of oblong shape at the bottom. So you already have the basic shapes. We can put a triangle here, a long triangle, and also with the legs, if you're usually to draw things, you go and draw them outside. So to check what the angle is of things, you can hold your pencil. So if I'm trying to check the angle of those legs, you hold the pencil like this and then try and put it onto your paper. So that showed me that the legs need to come up a bit higher. And I'm trying not to press too much with my pencil, because we're going to paint it with watercolor, and not everybody has watercolors. That's fine. We'll manage, or not. We'll manage. Everyone's picture is going to look different anyway, so it's fine. It looks a bit like a snowbird at the moment. Okay, so now we can start putting details in. So I'm going to start at the top and just, maybe I'm going to start from the beak. And even the beak, you can kind of check. Yeah, I think the angle is just about there. So basically you're just going round the shape now to get, and if you think of everything in terms of shapes, then it becomes less scary when you're drawing it. Although I bet some of you aren't as scared of drawing as some adults are. So you should try and hold on to that. What usually happens to me, I need to clip my fringe out of place, out of my eyes. Okay, so the wing comes down like this, and yeah, don't worry if it's not perfect. Okay, so I don't know if I think the beak might be a bit too long. So I find it a really interesting shape, this beak. And I'm trying, find it really hard though, to not put in too much detail, because you end up rubbing a lot of it out. And I think I tend to say, give all these tips and stuff, and then I end up ignoring them. Although they are, I must admit, they are helpful sometimes when you're a bit stuck. That beak has come down a bit too far.
I'm drawing the bit that comes in at the beak here. And just so I'm going to fuss too much about the eye for now. But just so we have an idea of, because it sort of gives life to the bird then. So apparently I keep being told, because sometimes when I'm practicing drawing birds, I keep being told they don't have necks really, and it's kind of true. If you look at the photo, I mean, they do have a neck because they're able to turn their head around, but their head, when you're drawing them, it pretty much joins onto the body. I think the belly is pretty much there, and that's why it's sort of helpful to draw that round shape. Well, when it comes down from the legs, and we've got the wing there. And just to, I'll leave that for later. Okay, so we're almost there. And then here, I think another thing which is helpful as well is when you're drawing things, you can look at the spaces between things. And if that space between the body, the belly and the legs looks good, quite similar to what's on the photo, then you've probably got it. And the claws, it's just a kind of suggestion of the claws. And we can draw in the branch it's perched on. So the claws, they're not really straight, they're kind of all knobbly is the word. And then there's the I like the shape, but I feel like there's too much pencil. Okay. So now we can draw in the branch. And it doesn't, you can't really see this bit on the, didn't draw it in before. It's a bit, maybe I won't. Let's just leave that as it is. And just need to sort out the tail a little bit. So that's the end of its wing. And then from the body, there's kind of another, this is the tail, and the wing is sitting on the tail. And we can make the tail a little bit longer. Okay. I think the beak is a bit big. So when you get stuck, measure kind of about twice the size of the head. So I think it should finish there. And now it's not long enough. And it kind of, it finishes with a tiny bit of a curve. I think that's about right. So now I'm going to rub the pencil marks out on the inside, because then you end up with the shape of the bird. And I'm going to rub out as much as I can, because obviously we want to, when you paint with watercolor, sometimes pencil marks show. I mean, it's not a big problem, but then if some of you are painting with poster paints, then it's fine. Should have bought a better hair clip. I'm just going to continue the branch, just going up the other side of it. And just as a guideline, somewhere here, yeah, just have that line. And I'm just painting in, or drawing in, just a few of the feathers really lightly. Can't get over these colours, even though I've already done it once. Colours are just beautiful. I've been wanting to paint Starling for ages. Okay, I think we can start painting. And hopefully everyone's following. Let me know if you need to ask me anything. Just check. The floors are okay. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, so I'm using watercolor. I think what I might do so that you can see is I have quite a big palette. Just so you can see me. I don't know how this is going to work. No, it's not going to work. It's so very loud. Sorry about that. So I've got jars of water here. I with watercolor, if you are using watercolor, I have 3 jars, because I try and keep, if I wash my brush in one jar for the darker colors, so like the blues and the purples and stuff like that can be in one jar, and then the yellows and everything can be in another jar. And it just keeps the color a bit cleaner. And the first brush I'm going to use is it's a medium brush. So I don't know, size 8, but it's up to you how much you're paying attention to, which sizes and everything. So the first thing we're going to do is use the color in watercolor is called Payne's Grey, and I really like this color. I'm just showing it to you there. Make it a bit to the side here. Not enough space for it to fit. But so we're going, I end up using this color quite a lot. So I'm going to make a really watery version. That's the other thing. With watercolor, you really don't need that much color. That's why they give you so little in the tubes, because there's a lot of pigment in it. And you just need lots of water and a tiny bit of color. I'm just going to get a test image. Yeah, so it's always good to have a bit of rough paper so you can test the color. So that looks about right. And what I'm going to do is, because it's darker on the underside, I'm going to paint that area first. And so this is where watercolor kind of differs from other colors. So what I'm going to do is paint the whole bird in this color, but then we're going to add other colors. And also you can make parts darker if you need to. Because really that's what you should do when you're using watercolor, is paint in layers, which I haven't quite got complete hang of yet, but so
Then just to let you know that there is a question in the chat.
sorry. Okay, so if you don't have grey, thanks, Caesar. If you don't have grey, I would use bright blue. I need to check my colors because I thought that list had everything in it. Sorry. Or if you have a black, you can use a very watered down black. But I think, so you should have a blue. So I just make that really watery. Oops. Okay, so this color, Payne's Grey, has blue in it anyway. Yeah, after this, I'll check. I need to double check the color list. There's something funny going on there. I think last year, because I did do this last year, so you can see all the blue pigmentation coming out, and we had people, not a lot of people were using watercolors, so maybe not that many people noticed. So now I'm going to mix up some different colors, and I'm going to make a purple using ultramarine, but you can use cobalt blue as well, and the alizarin crimson. So these two. So I've got some on my palette. That's the other thing. If you have colors on your palette from a nut painting before, you can just spray them with water, and they call it reactivation. Although the colors might not be as strong, but, and for those that are using the photos, what what I'm going to do next is use the second photo just to get the colours. So I've mixed up a purple. Next we need to mix a kind of a turquoisey green. So again, you can use the ultramarine or a lighter blue if you want. And no, lemon yellow. Can't get the, but I have got a turquoise here. So the colors in the list should be the basic colors that I used. So that's what is usually recommended to buy when you buy watercolors, and then you can mix up the rest. And yeah, if you have a puddle of blue as well. So we're preparing these so that we can just drop them in. Although I think my bird is dried out a little bit. You don't have to do this, but you can spray it with a bit of water. But it's optional basically. And so I'm going to take some of the green and drop that in. See, this is where it's fun. Drop that in at the top. And you don't have to follow exactly what I'm doing either. You can do your own thing. And if you're using poster paints or something else, or pencil colors, I mean, I guess what I'm doing with the brush, you can do with a pencil and just sort of drag the color down in kind of like stripes. I'm going to put a little bit of purple at the top. And then get a bit more this green color. And actually, I just remembered what I was trying to do before. I'm not sure it's going to work. Is hold the brush upside down, because then that should make the point of the feather. And you can just drop color in as well. Like, it's so much fun to drop color in. Maybe a bit more blue. I kind of want a bit of lighter blue as well. Oops. Yeah, what I was saying before, those are the basic colors in the list, but you can, there's so many different colors, but you'd go bankrupt if you bought everything. It's so tempting in the shops, of course, and they want you to buy everything. So, but I'd see if you really like whatever you're using, and then you can, if you get really into it, you can start to buy more things. But I'd start off with the basics first. this is spreading now because I sprayed it. Well, I quite like it, but I'm not gonna leave it. Yeah, you have to. Watercolor is quite fun because you have to sort of learn to let it go, and I think it's quite therapeutic actually. But when painting birds and animals, you can get quite, I don't know, you want to paint all the details and everything. I'm just going to drop a bit more colour in here. And I'm not shaping them, well, maybe I'm kind of following the feathers a little bit, but oh, no, I'm just going to paint it anyway. You also, with watercolor, you have to be careful not to go over it too much, because then the paper starts to go a bit funny, and so you really have to, oops, too dark, kind of let it go. And
excuse me,
yeah,
what kind of color are you using now?
it's it's what because my mum's an artist and she calls it palette muck. I've mixed up different blues and yellows, and so you can experiment. It's green basically.
Excuse me, Emma, can I just do normal green wash?
Yeah, no, definitely. Just make up your own green. We don't have to paint using the exact same colors. I'm just giving you suggestions basically. And we're going to paint over the top of them anyway. So here I'm using that same grey to make it a bit darker at the bottom, because the body's, so at the bottom it's obviously going to be darker. So if you use the blue, yeah, I just use the blue. But maybe use a bit more colour with the water. Keep remembering, so because we are using 2 photos basically. Maybe I'm just going to paint a bit more grey in here. So next, what we can do, I'm not sure. Yes, I use kitchen paper as well. If you want to make your brush a bit drier, because sometimes if you drop too much water, but I mean, sometimes that makes quite a nice effect. I think that should hopefully be dry enough. So the next thing we're going to do is paint the lines on the wing. So the color I used is a mixture of So yellow ochre, which is this one. So if you don't have the watercolor, so if you can find it, if you mix yellow with brown, you'll probably get this color, not too much brown. So trying to find a space to put it on. Put that on my palette, and then some cadmium red, which is kind of an orangey red. You don't need very much. So it's might be good to show you my palette. And maybe one day we'll be able to do these sessions live. But so this is how little color I'm putting down. So you really don't need that much. I probably won't use all of that either. And I also use cadmium yellow. I was just trying to make that, it's kind of like a golden color on the wings. But if you know how to make, you could also try mixing orange. I mean, that's basically it, with a bit of brown. In fact, I am going to add a bit of brown as well. Just to make it a tiny bit darker. So, and then you can test the color on here. That's about right. I think we also need to accept that we're never going to get it exactly the same, because nature, it's so hard to imitate these colors in nature. It's just incredible, really. I'm going to use a smaller brush now. Just to paint. And again, I'm not going to paint every single line because we'll be here forever, but they're quite cute that they have these. I don't know whether to decide whether they're arrows or they look like hearts sometimes. But say, okay, too much paint. And if you put too much paint on, it's fine. You just dab your brush or put in a bit of water, and also it doesn't have to be perfect. And you also don't need to be as careful as this. I'm just going to put a few suggestions of the feathers here, and which gets kind of bigger. And I'm looking at the first photo here, and just kind of doing little triangles pointing down. I lost the pencil drawing there, but let's paint those feathers in. And then it's just painting a few of the shapes. And the fluffy, well, it seems fluffy, it's probably, although it'd be very soft and kind of fluffy back. And then there's the lines of the wings here, which are very straight, but I doubt, well, I didn't get it that straight last time. So kind of come down like this. And then there's a big one. And this is what I found. Actually, you can go over them again if they're not showing enough. You can go over the same parts again. And then there's another section, because the wings, when you think about the way a bird opens its wings, it makes sense when you're painting it, because that's the first section that opens. And then there's the bottom section here that opens. You learn a lot about different animals when you're painting them. And you start to appreciate the way they act and the way they behave. Okay, so now I'm just going to paint these feathers in. It's just basically loops. And I'm going to drop a bit of colour in between. So I did for those of you that used to join me last year, I've kind of changed the way I'm doing things this year and doing the nature diary with Nature Trust, which is who I work for now. And I manage 2 nature reserves, which is a lot of fun. And I'm quite proud of them. And one of them is called Witollea, which is in Msida, near the university. And it's really stunning. So if you ever want to visit, you should. It's open to the public all the time. And if you ever have any questions about it, let me know. Or if you ever spot anything interesting, it's full of trees and the birds like it a lot there. And maybe one day, when things have calmed down a bit, maybe we can have a live session there. It would be a lot of fun. So basically, I'm just painting these shapes in. I mean, I think at this point, this is when you start to just sort of do your own thing, really. Start ignoring the teacher. Well, not that I'm a teacher, but you know what I mean. Maybe I'll just put another. And then I did last time is I went over these sections again, because that's another thing about watercolor. If you are using it always dries a lot lighter. So if you want it to be stronger, you need to go over it again. It's quite good because you can blend it a bit more. And I do want to get that effect of those in the middle. There's these three really blue lines in the feathers. And with a, I don't know whether to go with the colour at the end. If you want to, if you notice any other colours or you see something different, yeah, it's not just, sometimes people see different things differently. So if you want to add something, then go for it. So we do need to be a bit careful now because it's wet, obviously. But see, this doesn't always work. But what you can do to kind of give a bit of a suggestion about the arrows or hearts, whatever you want to call them, in the feathers, is I've made my brush really clean, and this only works with watercolor though, and then dried on a piece of kitchen towel, and then I'm painting that shape basically with water. Possibly and then what you can do is use a bit of kitchen paper to lift up the water. So, and if you're using poster paints or something else, you can do it with white paint. I'm just putting this kind of these V shapes. You do have to keep cleaning your brush, and it should give the impression of feathers. Gosh, really don't notice where the time goes. Which is why this is good for us. These, they could have been a bit smaller, I guess. I don't know, they're quite. And so I'm just going to put some smaller ones at the top. They're just tiny V's or arrows. I'm not going to paint them all in. It's funny the way they flow down the bird's body. Okay, so we can paint the claws next. What I'm going to paint them a bit with a little bit of water, so you can't even see what I'm painting. This is quite nice to use when using watercolors. So you paint it with water first and then add the color. And I'm using very, very watery cadmium red to make a kind of pink. And then you paint on the edge. So leaving the middle blank, just to sort of show where the light's hitting it. And I think it also makes it look a bit round. And then lift some of it up. So you lift it up by cleaning your brush and drying it. And I'm going to paint the little claw by using a tiny bit of the grey and just painting the edge. The two edges actually, because it has got a lot of light shining on it. I didn't need to do that. Okay, I feel like looking at it, but the underneath bird needs to be a bit darker.
Miss,
Yeah.
can we add we can add a background to our picture?
Yeah, of course you can. Go for it.
Okay.
Definitely. If you want to paint trees or plants or the sky, definitely, it's your picture. It's your picture, so you need to do whatever you think or whatever you want to do with it. I'm just making suggestions. But you don't have to follow everything I suggest, basically. So still feel like that beak came out. Maybe it's okay. What I'm going to turn it upside down so that I don't smudge the bottom. I'm just going to paint this in a little bit. And the beak is, I think I used yellow ochre. But it's a little bit of a dirty color. Because I think, oh God, what did I think the beak gets darker in the winter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the middle with the yellow ochre. And then I'm going to clean my brush but keep some water on it. And because the sun or the light was hitting it at the front, I'll keep that, just painted some water in because then it stays quite light. And if you do make mistakes, happens to us all, you put some water on it and then dab it with the kitchen towel. And really you shouldn't keep painting it, you should wait a bit, but don't really have time to wait. And then I'm going to put some grey in at the end. And then hopefully that's all going to blend in. Oh, what's happened? Need to put my charger in. Okay, so let's take a look. Yeah, I think might. So I'm keeping my hand at the top to not smudge it. I did smudge the other one. And yeah, I'm going to make parts of the head a bit darker. Oops. And you can sort of have it sticking, have some feathers sticking out of the head to make it look more real. And there is a kind of dark patch that goes around the eye. And if you want to get, there's a kind of, how to describe, a ring around the eye. Try and blend it in a little bit. I'm trying to leave, kind of create a bit of the shadow. And hopefully it's dry enough to paint the eye. So going to take my smallest brush and make the paint a little bit thicker. Oops. Brush is falling off its stick. And I'm going to paint the edge of the eye, and usually with animals, it's always good to leave a bit of white in the middle. And it's not completely white, but and I'm probably going to have to adjust this a little bit when it's a bit drier. And I'm going to make it a bit darker around here. So when it's drier, you know, when we painted the triangular parts, I can go around the eye to create the ring again and lift up some of the paint. Just trying to blend it in a little bit more here. Okay, so that's nearly finished, and I do realise I don't know what to do about the parts that sort of spread out a bit. I kind of like it, but make him just a little bit fatter. And this is a male starling. And with birds, the males are often more colourful, but it's because they need to keep the females safe. So the females are often camouflaged so that they're not so noticeable when they're flying around and when they're nesting, especially, because they have the babies and look after them most of the time. I think there are some birds that sort of share the babysitting, basically. Okay, maybe I'll see, when you use a smaller brush, it's a bit harder to blend things. So, and it can, I don't know, sometimes make you want to control things too much, but sometimes I find it a bit necessary to mixture of letting go and controlling. So just quickly going to paint in the branch, and what I'm going to do with the branch is paint it with water. And so the other side. And then make a mixture of browns. So there's the burnt sienna in there. So, and if you paint the bottom, and then the paint, because you painted it with water, the paint should move up. And paint the other side. I'm looking forward to seeing people's paintings and drawings now. Yeah, I am going to switch the recording off first. And you don't have to if you don't want to. It's up to you. And so the final thing we need to do is put a shadow in, and it is a bit too wet to put it in. But we can try. So for the shadow, I'm mixing a grey and a brown to make the brown even darker. I think if you mix blue and brown, you should get a good shadow colour. And it is quite dark, and it's quite important usually to paint this shadow, because otherwise it's just going to look like it's floating. And like I said, it's a bit too wet at the moment, so it is going to spread out a bit, but it's fine for now. And then I'll make it a sharper line later. And so we can put a bit of shadow in here underneath the claw. Making the branch take a bit of a funny shape now. Sorry?
Miss Sampson, I am leaving. I'm going to somewhere. Please, now I'm gonna show you my picture.
Okay, well, we're pretty much done here, but so I was going to switch the recording off now, but if you do need to leave now, it's fine, don't worry. So I'm just gonna switch it off now. Okay, thank you for joining, everybody. But yeah, let's look at everybody's paintings first.
Do you like my painting?